Are you a patient person? Explain.
I like to think that I'm really patient.
I have patience because, I like to wait for the right moment. I don't rush things.
I like to think I'm a very patient person. I understand people and how they think, and that sometimes you need to wait and have time.
Yeah, I consider myself pretty patient. I realize that things are gonna go the way they go no matter what you do.
Are you a patient person? Sometimes. I just hate waiting for things. I guess it's something I have to work on.
At times, yes, but I hate annoying people.
If someone is very disrespectful and doesn't deserve my patience, then I'm not patient.
I'm actually really bad with patience. I get really mad kind of easy.
I'm not a patient person at all.
No, not at all. It just bothers me when things take too long or I'm waiting for something.
I'm not a patient person at all. I like things to happen immediately.
I lose my patience a lot with sports. I'm very competitive.
Boys. I lose patience with boys.
I lose my patience with my sister probably the most. Usually my brother. I lose patience with my parents because they nag me about schoolwork and soccer.
I lose my patience when I have things to do and I'm somewhere and people are taking long.
Things don't happen fast enough and I have to wait around, so I don't like that. People who start fights with me and people who don't listen to me.
I lose my patience for intolerant people.
I lose my patience with disrespectful people and situations that are new to me.
How many times have we been told to just be patient? Kira, it's your line.
What? Oh, 1 second. Vince is supposed to call me, and we're supposed to go to lunch after this, and he won't answer my text or my phone call.
Well, I'm sure it can wait. I mean,
You don't understand. I texted him 2 minutes ago. He won't respond. He won't answer my calls. This is really important.
If you were more patient, you would have realized that we're on the air.
What? Oh. Why didn't you say so?
So you had to see that. Patience is a virtue. That's what we'll be talking about today. Hi, everyone. I'm Matt.
Oh, and I'm Kira.
And this is Realfaith TV.
Some of the teens on the street considered themselves patient people,
While others said they struggled with being patient often.
We'll talk with them more in a few minutes, as well as meet our spotlight guest, Andy.
But first, let's meet our studio guests and see how they feel about this.
Okay, they are Ijama, Daniela, Nick, Lauren, Kelly, Phil, and Patrick.
So are you patient, and at what times do you feel most impatient?
I know for me, I'm patient to an extent, but when a slow car gets in front of me when I'm driving, I have some iffy times right there, but I'm pretty patient other than that.
I'm definitely not a patient person. That's something I really need to work on. I'm always gotta get it done now, no matter what the cost, and it caused a lot of conflicts with people.
Yeah, I agree. When I got my job, that's when I started learning to be patient because I had to deal with a bunch of customers, and a lot of them were rushing or they didn't know what they were doing, so I'd have to get them through. And at first I was but then eventually I was whatever.
Yeah, I'm the exact same way with my job. A lot of people coming in, rushing you, making you more impatient. And for the most part, I'm pretty patient.
Yeah, I babysit sometimes, and so I feel like I need the most patience there, especially dealing with little kids, because they don't understand a lot. And
I am never patient, ever in any situation, mostly involving my cell phone, for instance, I'm always why aren't they getting back to me? I just kind of need to tone it down a little bit, and it's usually with people that have different opinions than me, because I really kind of don't want to listen sometimes, because I'm I don't agree with you, so I don't care, so I need to work on that.
I sometimes will have trouble waiting in lines for something like a roller coaster, and you're just why can't I just go on now? And it's you have this entire line in front of you, and you reach the sign, and it's 2 hours to go, and it's just
Like you guys saw with my phone and my family and friends getting back to me, I really don't have patience for them not responding to me.
I struggle with the exact same thing. I'm always come on, answer me right now.
Yeah. Well, let's go back to the teens on the street, where we asked them what they do to be more patient.
And if patience is important to them as teenagers.
I don't do anything to help me be more patient. It's my personality. I don't think it'll ever change. To become more patient, I just try to wait before I get mad.
Take a deep breath. Take a deep breath and just think about what I'm going to say and just relax.
Try to think of how frustrated they must be.
I kind of just think about the situation. It's really not a big deal.
Well, I said I meditate a little bit. I you know, do something creative like play guitar or, you know, sing.
Take a step back and look at myself and like reassess what I'm doing. Because if I'm like yelling at someone for a ridiculous thing, then you know, you just gotta take a step back.
I think if I was a patient person, it'd be a lot easier on life. So patience is pretty important.
Very important. Like you just have to sit there and wait for things to happen.
It's very important, or else you won't be able to deal with anyone if you're not patient.
It probably helps you out a lot to be patient because you're not stressed out a lot.
A lot of the problems in the world today come from people just being too overexcited about things and you know, too caught up in the moment.
So is patience a difficult thing in today's world?
It's definitely a difficult thing because we live in a very fast-paced world. Everyone wants things now, no one wants to wait for it.
Yeah, I agree. It has to do with the fact that we're all so busy and we don't really take time for certain things because everything's just so quick and everything moves so fast. We just feel like it's now or not.
I think in our society, it's being taught to us every generation, like faster is better, faster is better. And I think a lot of quality even gets taken out, let alone patience.
In addition, we have like new and improved technology also. Like with the phones, you can actually get to your messages in like a couple seconds as opposed to going home to the house phone.
Yeah, as soon as you get an email, you get to know in like 2 seconds you're already typing back an email just on your phone.
Yeah, it used to be like you would send out a letter and it would be like brought by a horse and carriage and it would take months to get the letter there. And now it's like a text message is there in seconds.
Pony Express the extreme.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know there's a song by the Black Eyed Peas called Now Generation, and in this song they talk about how our generation right now is exactly that. We want everything now. And there's a line in the song saying, if time can't wait, then I can't wait. I think that's like exactly describes our generation. In a society that always seems to rush from one task to the next, it's difficult to be still for any length of time.
We feel the pressure of a rigid daily life, getting up and ready for school,
rushing from class to class, completing homework, or taking part in extracurricular activities keeps us moving all the time.
Even our social lives have us moving about just to spend quality time with our friends.
In many ways, stillness is not part of our routine, opening the door to impatience when our expectations aren't met.
Our spotlight guest, Andy, considers himself a patient person, especially when it comes to dealing with his family and friends.
Let's hear him now.
I think I'm a patient person, but I can lose it just like everyone else. Having 3 younger siblings, that requires a lot of patience. But I think with sports even, if you're behind, you gotta remain patient so you can come back and not press too much. And even in work, to remain patient with customers because they're always right. It's probably most difficult for me to be patient with myself and my parents because we both have such high expectations for me that I can get frustrated when I don't live up to them, and so sometimes I think I can be unfair on myself, and that can cause me to be impatient. And I just kind of get into a bad habit of taking it out on probably my parents. When I'm impatient, I try to separate myself from the situation so that I can calm down. I try to do something that'll relax me, whether it's like listening to music or reading a book, watching TV. To become more patient with those around me, I think I just need to keep things in perspective and realize that whatever they're doing that could be bothering me is not that important compared to other things in life. Patience is extremely important with friendships and relationships because if you're feeling stressed out or something like that, you can take it out on someone else, and if they're not patient, then could just drive you guys apart. If they do that to you, then it could have the same effect. So I think it's really important to be patient with your friends and your family and everyone because you don't really know what's going on a lot of the time, and it's important to be there for them.
Like Andy said, I definitely take it out on my family when I'm impatient. I'll come in the house and I'm just storming around because I had a bad day or someone made me impatient. So I definitely agree with him. Self-control is another very important aspect of patience.
Not having time to examine one's actions and thoughts can cause us to make aggressive decisions that are irrational and not well thought out.
In situations of anxiety, it is easy to act out and indulge in negative behavior and escapes, such as overeating, loud music, or even drugs and alcohol.
Next, Andy discusses how he needs patience as a younger player on the varsity baseball team at his high school,
and shares a time when his lack of self-control led him down a troubling path.
Every year for baseball, I've played a lot, and then this year I made the varsity team for high school north, and I didn't play at all. It was frustrating. It drove me to the point where I thought about quitting, but it was important to remain patient because I knew that by sticking it out and playing through, that next year I'd have a good chance to play, and also that there's a lot of lessons that can be learned from it, because first of all, we had a good team, and I learned how to win the right way. And also, I learned that sometimes you have to do things for a team, and somebody has to do it. So it kind of taught me that sometimes there's more important things than yourself. Freshman year, I kind of struggled with patience for a little while. It was about 3 or 4 months where I was really stressed, and I just lost my patience a lot. And it kind of escalated to the point where I ended up actually getting suspended for a day. But looking back on that, I think it was like a blessing in disguise, because it kind of woke me up to what was happening, and I realized that I needed to get back in line and that I was not doing the right thing, and that actually helped me become more patient now. So just remembering what happened that time in school helps me to keep my patience so I don't have to go through it again. Actually, when I'm in the heat of the moment, I try to think about last time, because I'm still embarrassed by what happened, and ashamed that I let my impatience get that far.
So when have you struggled with the consequences of impatience?
Well, definitely at my job. When I first started getting customers, I started getting the ones that complained or caused issues. So I wasn't very patient. So invertedly, I'd start sounding rude, and they'd complain to my boss, and my boss would be like, "What happened?" I'll be like, "They were driving me crazy." And then my boss would always have to say, "Well, listen, I know that they do that, but you have to have patience with them. You can't act out like that, or else we'll lose customers."
When I first met my best friend, he was annoying to me. So I almost didn't have my best friend, because I would totally always give him the cold shoulder, just because little things, I was always so impatient, and he would always ask me about things because we met in school, and I would never give him a chance. But and there's times where he once told me that he almost stopped talking to me totally when we first met, because he thought I was such a mean and impatient person.
I was on a retreat for Life Teen in Notre Dame a few weeks ago. And my youth minister wanted to take our cell phones away because she feels like they distract us from the whole experience. Now, because I was very impatient with her taking our cell phones away, it caused a lot of problems, and it caused her to take away my cell phone for longer periods of time. And it was rough being away from it, but it also kind of enlightened me a little bit to be a little bit more patient. Just wait. I don't need to see who's texting me or whatever. I can wait. It's not going to kill me.
There was one time when I had to pick my brother up from school, and he was taking a long time to come from the school. So I started getting impatient. When he did finally get to where I was, I sort of took my anger out on him from having to wait so long. And it ended up being that there was a bully picking on him, really, and I just felt horrible after I did that, because I wasn't patient and welcoming to him, really.
Yeah, I'd have to say, I always get impatient when I need help with a homework problem, and I always ask my dad for help, and he goes through the longest way to explain it. It always takes a half hour to give me a 2-word answer, and I just get so impatient every time.
Kindness helps us to be patient with those who we encounter in irritating situations and confrontations.
Our natural reaction is to become angry and frustrated when people or things hold us up or put us out of our way.
Rather than focusing on the instant aggravation in a situation, we can instead focus on how we can be kind.
Kindness allows us to step outside our own frustrations and turn away from selfishness.
When being impatient with a sibling who is in a bad mood, or when dealing with a competitive classmate, we can focus on being kind to them and showing them love.
Next, Andy talks about how patience through kindness is an important part of his relationship with his younger siblings.
Yeah, with my siblings, they're a lot younger than me, so I realize that they're going to do things that I don't appreciate or agree with. It's who they are, and that it's better just to accept it and kind of move on so that it doesn't create a bigger problem. My mom doesn't even talk to her brother now. She has 5 siblings. I don't want to end up in that situation where I don't talk to one of my siblings. If there's something that bothers me, I try to work it out with them and be patient so that I still have a good relationship when I'm older with them. There's been a lot of times where my parents have been impatient with me and I don't think it's fair, or my teachers have been impatient because something else that's going on with them, they let that get to them and they take it out on me. And I think that actually helps me become more patient too, because I realize how unfair I think that is. So I try to avoid taking my impatience out on someone else. So I have my license now, and my parents won't give me a car, which it can be frustrating because I want to go wherever I want to go, you know, hang out with my friends or even drive to school. So it can be kind of frustrating because everyone else is driving and I'm not, or I have to use my parents' car and it's not always available. I try to remain patient with them because I know they're just looking out for what's best for me, and I think it keeps me down to earth even because I don't have everything that I want. By not getting everything I want, it can keep my focus on God and my family and friends and things that are important to me that you can't put a value on.
My house is always really loud, so when I have to study or something, like Andy, there's always brothers and sisters and friends in and out, so it's really hard for me to I always want to study in the kitchen, and that's not always available, and I get really impatient, and I'm like, why is everyone in the kitchen? So then I have to leave, and it gets really frustrating, but I really need to be more patient with everyone in my house.
Yeah, like he was saying about, he can't always be able to drive somewhere. So I know the only way I can get to places is my sister, and I always have to wait until she's done whatever she's doing to be able to take me somewhere. It just bothers me.
So what is your advice to others on being more patient?
That's what we asked the teens on the street.
Let's check it out.
My advice for someone to be more patient is to definitely give everybody a chance.
Set their priorities straight and, get their stuff in order.
I have no idea because I'm not patient.
They should try listening to others more. My advice for someone who needs to be more patient is to breathe a little.
Think about the situation. Live life as it comes. It's not a big deal.
Just sit back and relax and just try to stay calm and just wait.
Just let it be.
You have to think about the situations other people are in before you get impatient with them.
Because not everybody is as advanced and far along as you are, so everybody's learning.
Do you think patience is a virtue or an admirable quality?
I think patience is a virtue because if you don't have patience, things can just go wrong.
An admirable quality because I wish I had patience.
Patience is a very good quality to have.
I think it's definitely a virtue.
Patience is definitely a virtue because better things come in time instead of rushing it.
It's definitely a virtue.
I think it's a virtue because it's something that you need to have.
I think it's more of a virtue. You need to learn it to be a better person.
I believe that patience is a virtue because if you're not a patient person, it's really hard to get through life.
So how does faith help you to see patience as a virtue?
A virtue is really is a tendency to do good. So patience as a virtue would be encountering situations that are going to test your patience, and then you end up doing good and you act patiently.
Yeah, and our faith calls us to practice patience.
And Jesus was impatient in the garden when he was with Peter and 2 other disciples, and he said, oh, you can't even stay awake to pray with me, when he was about to be condemned to death. And both times he went back, they were not awake, and he was really disappointed and impatient. And even though Jesus is God here on earth, he was impatient. So it's going to be a human tendency. I know I'm impatient all the time. But in the Bible, there are so many more examples of being patient that's what I want to focus on more.
Yeah, and God is always patient with us, so I think that we should be patient with other people just like he is with us.
Patience is a gift from God that we must constantly pray for.
Just as we need bread and water to live, we need patience to love.
God allows us to experience his love in new ways when we understand what patience is.
The famous scripture passage from St. Paul's first letter to the Corinthians, love is patient, love is kind, describes the way we should be interacting with those who we love.
We are called to be patient with those around us in order to give and experience God's love the way he intended it for us.
God says that if we love, we are also patient.
Next, we asked the teens on the street, how can God help us to be more patient?
And whether or not they trusted God's time.
God can help us become more patient by just, looking at what's the right thing to do.
By prayer, definitely. Because if you believe in him, then he'll really make miracles happen, I guess.
God can't help us be more patient. God could just help us see the light and just succeed in life.
If you believe in God, then that's great. That connects people, and that gives people something to be good and noble for, and some expectations to live up to. That's the thing that's really going to help you carry through crises.
Do you trust God's time? That things don't always happen in our time when we want them to happen, but in God's time?
Yeah, I do.
He will do things in his own time, yes.
People think like you want things to happen like right then and there, but God has something planned out for everyone.
He has like a path for all of us. Things happen in good time, on God's time.
I definitely think having faith and prayer will help you be more patient because it'll just open you up to more people.
Prayer can help people out, like to be more patient, because it just like helps you think about like what's going on in your life, to slow down.
It allows you to have time to like sit there and think about what you're doing as you're praying. It's a very calming moment, and that'll help you in being more patient. Like literally it calms you down.
It releases inner tension. It takes the load off your mind.
Yes, prayer can help someone to be more patient. It'll make you feel better.
Just a way to guide them in life and a way to make them feel patient with themselves and their well-being.
Yeah, one way that we can learn patience is by reading the stories in the Bible. There's a lot of stories of like people being patient and everything. So it teaches us something that we should strive for.
Yeah, in the Old Testament with Moses and the Israelites, they spent 40 years in the deserts, and Israelites didn't know like what to expect, and they're becoming impatient. But at the end, God had promised them the promised land.
Yeah, and also it's like Job. The devil basically made Job's life a wreck, but he was always patient for God. He was like, God, I know you're going to fix this. I'm going to keep having faith in you. And eventually God made everything amazing, gave him more than what he had at the beginning, and it was just so amazing.
Whenever I pray to God, I always look for an immediate answer. And I have to remember that it's on God's time, not my time. And that if my prayer will be answered, if it's his will, that he will do it, and it'll be on his time.
Actually, the same thing happens. Like, I'll want something right away, and I have to lean on patience and try to obtain the virtue by just holding on and saying, okay, it's God's time, whenever he's ready.
So simply, we just need to trust God and know that it's all going to come together somehow.
Yeah, especially since sometimes when we wait for something, we're learning a lesson as we wait. So that's probably why there's always God's time.
It's the same like if we might not ever get something, it's still, we're learning the lesson.
We must be patient with ourselves by allowing God to heal our wounds, to answer our prayers, and to forgive our sins.
In feeling God's love, we can more easily see God within other people as well as in ourselves.
When we ask him for something, a blessing, a healing, an answer, or direction for wisdom or strength, we sometimes expect his response immediately.
We can become impatient with him, frustrated, and even angry.
Perhaps to the point where we just stop listening and act out.
But that is why it's important to understand that patience is the key for our faith to be full.
Finally, our Spotlight guest Andy shares with us why he feels patience is a virtue.
And how faith in God requires a lot of patience.
Patience is a virtue in my life because of everything that it's taught me and all the lessons I've learned. I just try to take everything and make myself better. When I think about patience in the Bible, the phrase, "This too shall pass," comes to mind. It's one of my favorites, and it just kind of helps remind me that whatever is going on, it'll change and it won't be as important tomorrow, and that there's more important things in life like God. I do trust in God because I believe he responds in his own way, and I trust that he has a plan for me. I believe that whatever he says I should do, that I should be patient with that, because although it may not be what I want, I think that in the long run it'll be what's best for me. Everyone wants their prayers to be answered quickly, but I'm actually pretty patient with that because I realize that God works mysteriously. His response might not even be recognized by me. I actually pray a lot when I'm feeling impatient. Although it might not be like when I'm in the heat of the moment, I don't pray. I think about it overnight, I pray about it, and I trust that God, he'll lead me in what I should do. I think faith in God requires a lot of patience because it takes time to develop a relationship with him. I think that's where a lot of people go wrong because they want immediate things from religion and from God, and when they don't get them, they lose faith. I think it's important to stay in it for the long haul.
Are you always patient with God? What does your relationship with him teach you about patience?
There's always the times when I pray that I'm not really patient about it, but one thing I am patient with is my future. Like, I've come to accept the fact that I don't know what's going to be coming ahead of me. And that's okay. And I'm patient with God. Whenever he's ready to tell me what's going on next, he'll let me know. So
it's definitely the same thing with me, where like discerning my vocation, really. Like I feel called to the priesthood and called to the family life. They both seem like just such good ways to live out your life, and I want to know what I'm going to end up doing now, but that's not how God works, and you really have to pray about it and be patient until that answer finally does come to you.
Yeah, I agree. I have a similar issue, but when it comes to me and praying to God, I used to be real impatient with him, but eventually I learned that he'll send the answer to our prayer when it's most needed, not when we want it to come.
And then I find if I pray for patience, like when I wake up in the morning, like, God, just please give me the patience to get through this day whenever I need it. That helps a lot.
My iPod has been lost for a month. I can't find it. I have no idea where it is. And I've been praying to St. Anthony, like, you would not believe, like, please help me find my iPod. Please help me find my iPod. But I went on 2 like really long trips, and on those trips, I like got to talk to my mom more and my dad. And so maybe it was a blessing in disguise that I didn't have my headphones in on the car ride from God. So.
God gives us situations in our lives which enable us to understand and acquire patience.
We must actively obtain it by treating every aggravating situation as an opportunity to act with love.
We must not live our lives in anxiety or in haste, but rather try and find patience with ourselves, others, and in God's will for us.
How does your faith help you to be a more patient person?
We'd love to hear from you. Contact us through our website.
The address is www.realfaithtv.com.
Or you can call us at 609-406-7402.
And we'll leave you today with the words of 17th century bishop and doctor of the church, St. Francis de Sales.
Never be in a hurry. Do everything quietly and in a calm spirit.
Do not lose your inner peace for anything whatsoever, even if your whole world seems upset.
Thanks for watching.
We'll see you next time on
Realfaith TV. God bless.
Look, it's Vince. Vince, lunch is on you today. That's what you get for not answering my calls.